Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and this is a tutorial on fragments in Android. A fragment is basically a reusable part of an activity, so usually it will represent part of the user interface, but not necessarily. And a fragment is self-contained, so you can use it in multiple activities, or you could have an activity that swaps in different fragments, swaps them in and out. So in this tutorial I'm just going to create a really simple demonstration of a fragment to get started. And fragments they were introduced in Android API level 11, and they were really introduced to support big screens like pads rather than phones. And I'm just working here with a little HTC Desire C. So this isn't the ideal platform to demonstrate fragments, but fragments are useful on phones too, so it's not a waste of effort by any means. So I'm going to create a new Android application project here, and let's call it Fragments Demo, or maybe Fragments Introduction. And I'll set the package to com.caveofprogramming.android.fragments, and of course you would want to use your own package name in there. And I'll set the minimum required SDK to SDK 11 here, Honeycomb, which was when fragments were introduced, I believe. And I'll say that I don't want this icon. Let's just click next, next, and finish. Now let's start off with a fragment class. So what I'll do is I've got a bunch of Java courses, and I'll create a little fragment to start off with that displays an icon for my course and some text introducing it. And I'll just kind of hard code stuff in a minute and just get this up and running, and we'll kind of elaborate this more in future tutorials. So I'll right click this package and I'll go to new class, and let's call this something like product fragment. So the idea is this is a fragment that showcases a particular product. And I'll change this superclass to fragment here, fragment, and I'll just click browse and select Android.app fragment and click finish. And now let's right click and go to source, override implement methods. And there are three particularly important methods here that we might want to override. And one is onCreate, and that's where you would do any kind of initialization, non-view initialization anyway. And then we've also got onCreateView, and this is where you create the view for your fragment if it has a view. And onCreateView can return null if your fragment doesn't have a view, but usually it will do. And we might as well also override, although I probably won't use it here, onPause. And fragments actually have their own life cycle, and if your parent activity is destroyed, the fragment will be destroyed and so on. But fragments can also be destroyed and paused and so on separately to the activity that they're in, and a fragment can be removed from an activity, for example. So because an activity or a fragment, if it's going to be destroyed, if it's going to be stopped or destroyed, it will first go through onPause. onPause is a really good place to save any data that you need to save. I probably won't use it here, but we could put a comment here, save data if necessary. And you would probably only want to save small amounts of data in there. And if you have a lot of data to save, then you want to be saving that as you go along when your fragment is actually active. Of course, it's the same with an activity. I'll leave super.onCreate in this onCreate here, and we could put more initialization here. So let's say here initialization here, and here in onCreateView, that's what I'm going to use in this tutorial to create my view. So let's return null for the moment just to get rid of this compile error, and I will create a layout for this fragment. So I'll make this a visual fragment. So I'll right click layout here under res, and I'll go to new Android XML file, resource type layout, and let's call this product fragment.xml, and I'll base that on relative layout, I think, although you could use any layout, and I'll click finish. And I'll just do something really simple here because I don't want to take up time just with kind of doing basic layout stuff again, but I'll have an image view here, image view, and let's give that an ID. So I'm defining the ID, so I use plus there, and let's call this image, and I'll say that the layout width is wrap content, and let's make the layout height wrap content as well, and I'll say align parent top true, and let's also have center horizontal, set that to true, and maybe I'll set the padding as well. Let's give it a padding of, let's try 10 dp, and underneath the image view I'll have some text, so the image view can display kind of a product icon for this simple example, and underneath that let's have a text view. So let's say text view, and ID I will make text, well, let's say ID title, just for the moment, title, and again the layout width and layout height I'll set to wrap content. So let's just copy those and paste this in here. Let's have central horizontal as well, and let's try the padding. I may delete it later, and I'll also say layout below, and I'll say that I want it below the image here, so below ID, below ID image. Let's save that and see how it looks. Okay, that's okay. I probably need to set the content description here, so let's just say content description product image, and I'll just do Control-1 and add that to strings.xml. Okay, and this is all just stuff that we've seen before basically, but the difference is it's going to be in a fragment. So now I'll go back to my fragment, product fragment.java, and in here we've got an inflator already, so I can say view equals inflator.inflate, and I'll use this 3-argument version which is used in the example on developer.android.com, and for the resource here I'm going to say r.layout.product fragment, which is the XML that I just created, and for the view I'm going to pass in container here, which is this view group that's passed in, and I'll say attached to root false, because apparently the kind of fragment will be attached to its root container anyway, so you don't want to do it twice by setting this to true. And actually I found you can set that to true or false, or just use the 2-argument version. It doesn't seem to make a difference, but probably it does behind the scenes, so let's just stick to what we see in developer.android.com, which is this version of inflate. And I'm going to return the view down here, and if you want to do view related initialization, then you're going to have to do it here, because here you've got your view. So let's just do that, and for the moment I'll just do something really simple. Firstly, I'll get some icons from my various courses here. So I've got let's see, I've got an Android course, and whoops, I mean to open it, Android course and a Java beginners. If I could just highlight these, it would be good. And servlets, swing, threads, and maybe that's it. Okay, so let's just copy those. They'll certainly do anyway. I'll just copy them and I'll go to Eclipse, and I'll just create a sort of, I'll right click res here and I'll go to new folder and create a folder called drawable, because I'm not going to bother creating different resolution icons here. And I'll just right click drawable and I'll paste them in there. So here are my icons. And now let's set the image. Let's get the image view here and set the image on it. So I'll say image view equals typecast image view view.find view by ID, because we need to use the particular view that we're creating, inflating here, and we need to call find view by ID on that. And I'll say r.id.image. That's the ID of my image view. And I'll add the import for image view, and let's also get the text view. So text view, text, let's call this title view equals text view view.find view by ID r.id.title, and add the import again. And for the image view I want to set a drawable, so I'll say drawable icon equals get resources dot get drawable, and to get drawable I pass r dot drawable dot, and let's just set initially the let's set this swing icon, and so I'm just using the icon that I pasted in. And now I can say image view dot set drawable, set image drawable, that's the one, icon, and I can say title view dot set, and for the moment I'm just going to do set text, and I'm just going to hard code some text here. So let's just say swing mastering Java swing for the title. This doesn't really matter, just so that I have something to display. And now, so I've got a complete fragment now that should work, and now I can include that in my main activity. So let's go to the activity underscore main.xml and look at the XML view here, and I'll get rid of the text view here, and instead of text view I'll say fragment with a lowercase f, and I'll add an ID here, and let's set the ID to, let's set it to product, maybe just product for the moment. I might change it later. And I have to set the name, so Android : name, and I'm going to set that to my fragment class. So I'm going to say com.cave of programming, just looking up here, .android.fragments, and you could put your fragments in a separate package, of course. I've just bunged everything in one package here, and the name of the class is product fragment. So there's my package name, and then product fragment is the name of my class. And let's lay this out somehow. So I'll say layout width is wrap content, and layout height. My laptop here sounds like a helicopter, but never mind, it's really noisy. And I think that's all I have to do. So let's just run this and see how it looks. I'm going to run it as an Android application, and what I'll do is I'll probably create like a couple of fragments, and we'll have them communicating with each other and stuff like that. But initially I just want to show you how to get one basic fragment up and running. So let's go to my screencast, which is down here somewhere. There it is. And here's my fragment. It's not very pretty, but that's because I just bunged it together really fast. And I could do some things to make it look nicer, like for example maybe set the text color to black and set the background of the relative layout to white. So I'll probably do stuff like in text view, say text color equals Android color black, and on the relative layout here I might want to do something like background equals Android color white, stuff like that. Possibilities are endless really, but you get the idea. So that's a basic fragment, and we'll go on to do some more stuff with fragments in the next tutorial. So join me again for the next one, and until next time, happy coding.